everyone, this is your OG Original Gamer, and this is another Godforge video. Today, we'll be providing commentary and reaction to the video that Fateless co-founder Simon put out this morning showing the behind-the-scenes look at the creation of the powerful Announce trailer cinematic that we were all blown away by over a month or so ago. Your OG will be hunting the devil in the details and show you more than maybe what you saw. Without waiting any longer, let's optimize.
Hey guys, this is Simon from Fateless. Welcome back to the YouTube channel and one of our...
Alright, so today we are going to be breaking down the video that Simon put out showing the behind the scenes look at how the Announce trailer cinematic was created. Simon, you can watch the whole video. I'll drop the link below, but I won't show you the whole video here, so you can go watch it yourself if that's what you want to do. I will just simply be pausing it and showing you different key points. So Simon starts, he talks about how Sham and himself are the main Fateless leaders for the cinematic work in that team. He talks about some of his past some emotional cinematics that he likes from things like League of Legends and World of Warcraft. So he's talking a lot about that. He's talking a lot about the experience that they went through to create the cinematic and what it started from at the beginning and how it evolved, iterated, improved, so to speak, all the way to what we saw at the end. So very interesting look, and of course he talks about, in the beginning, some of the ways and the behind the scenes mocap work that went on to create this. Really an interesting inside look that we don't normally get from a game company as they're making the game. They only want to show you the clean and finished final product. They're really not interested in showing you the very basic or simple piece that is what you're really looking for. So if you notice, we start this trailer. We obviously know quite a bit about the trailer, having seen it, but because of this behind the scenes look, we're getting a chance to put some pieces together on assumptions we'd made in my previous video. And Simon shares some pieces that they had in play and then didn't make it into the Announce trailer, and how that could maybe shine some light for us on the direction the team is looking to go with this, and maybe just didn't get a chance to put all of those pieces into it. And we're going to talk about that here as we go forward. So, for instance, we see Raw at the beginning of this Announce trailer basically laying waste to a Norse environment. So they're asked some big questions, we see Raw using basically his ultimate to start the cinematic, that giant explosion, but it's in a Norse environment. And so it's a really interesting question as to why is Raw running around a Norse area just laying waste, So I think that's going to be answered as we get into the story as well. One piece here, Simon talks about some things that they received from their Safari and the team that was working on this trailer with them. So that team provided a sort of final project summary in terms of videos and behind the scene look, and that's what Simon's going through in this. So there'll be several different small trailers and looks here that that team has put together from Narwhal and from Safari. So he's talking about the team right now. Like I said, him and Sham were the leaders. Mike Berry there is the marketing and the director from the Fateless side. And he just goes through some of the team members and who they had to pull together. Now, he talks about a lean team, and we're going to go into Lean Six Sigma methodologies in a future video, and how to apply those to your clan teams and Pantheon teams, and that's going to be a piece in that Pantheon management. So we won't jump too off topic on this, but he's talking about building the team, building a lean team. This is all of them, 2, 4, 6, 8, that participated and made this happen, which is great. They go into a lot of different details throughout this. We'll try to kind of jump around and give you just what I think. Okay, so he's going through the storyboarding from their original idea. Again, you could see Ra there using in that last 9th story panel that he's using his ultimate. But again, this is all occurring in a Norse environment, which makes sense why Brunhild is there. But begs a lot of questions as to why Ra's running around, you know, the Nordic arena when he's from Egypt, you know, destroying things. So what led to this? It begs a big question. All right. He talks about different differences in the original storyboard of and what got cut out. He talks about Gilgamesh slaying a Cyclops to get into the secret room there with the ether, but they had to take that out. They wanted to show that there was like someone that Gilgamesh vanquished to get in there. That got taken out. So that's interesting though, that Cyclops would have been the character they would have chosen to guard the ether room. That's what we're learning about. This is the ether chalice, sort of like a door to the ether world that Gilgamesh breaks. And when he breaks it, he breaks the seal between those worlds, it seems. And then the ether, or the divinity, then flows both to mortals and immortals, not simply to the gods. And so we're getting more information on that. Basically, Simon goes on to say here in this next part that they had Gilgamesh coming to this ether bowl and breaking up. Let's see if we can find it. Yeah, breaking up a. It's detailed, but he's breaking up. He takes the stone out of his pocket and he breaks it up and drops it into the chalice bowl, and he begins to gain strength. And also, that's a piece right here. If you notice, these 6 lines emulating out from it, as Gilgamesh is doing this and his power is growing, you can see Simon says that there's like corrupted divinity that goes out through these 6 stars. Then if you go back at the beginning of this cinematic, Ra has the same lines coming out from him in the, you'll see it later on in a like a second run through of the cinematic. When Ra does his ultimate, he also has those same 6 lines coming out. So I see that as a tie in between the two things. Like, this relates to that, is what they were trying to do, and it may not have made it into the cinematic in such an obvious form as it was in the storyboard. But I think it tells us a little bit something about what the team was trying to connect for us as Gilgamesh takes out this stone. I'm guessing that perhaps this could be that blue stone that we've seen in the game sequences that help ascend a character automatically. There seems to be about 2 or 3 ways, or 4 even maybe, ways to ascend or rank up or do things with your character, and we haven't figured out exactly, but that would tie how it all works, but that would tie into Fateless's intentions of having more than one way of getting resources. Now, the alternate ways of getting resources may be very inefficient compared to the best ways of getting resources, and so that's going to open up opportunities for you to understand, okay, yes, I can spend coin to upgrade my champion, but it is the least efficient way to do things. So I only want to do that in the last case scenario, or the worst case scenario. I ultimately want to be getting this or this type of resource because that has the best conversion rates. We're going to be getting into all that in a later video. But as you can see here, there is a stone in this bottom right one that Simon is talking about in the original idea, that Gilgamesh would pull this stone out and begin to break it apart and drop it into the ether chalice, almost sort of like a ritual. But this did not make it. There wasn't enough time, and so it did not make it into the 1 minute and 15-second announce trailer. But we're learning a lot about what their original intentions were on this before they had to cut it back to its final runtime. So we're not sure what type of gem this is, but it could very well be this blue gem we're seeing that it looks like helps either ascend or rank up the character. So he drops it in there. We don't know if that's the same thing, but then his power, this corrupted divinity, begins to spread out, Simon says, and then again we saw that same 5-6 stars of corrupted divinity come out from Gilgamesh and also from Ra. So it sort of shows this decision impacted everyone. It did not just stay localized to Gilgamesh. So we caught that. He looks down at his hands and he's beginning to be corrupted by this power, this corrupted divinity, and it gets all over his hands, and of course he touches his sword. We thought maybe that could be love. Hey, maybe there's no more powerful force than love, so maybe it does wind up tying into love. But ultimately it's him gaining this divinity power, and then the cinematic goes forward. Simon talks about a change they made with Ra noticing Broomhild's attack because of reflection on a shield, and then he looks back and sees Broomhild attacking. They changed this. I thought this is a really good change because I think it makes Ra appear too normal and not godlike to have that level of attention to detail. Only a mortal in combat has to think and have that much attention to detail that they're trained to look for every sign. But Ra is invincible. He's strolling around the battlefield doing what he wants. He's not worried. He's not hyper vigilant. So I like that they took that out. I thought that having him be very cool, calm, and collected was the right sort of way to set him up. And this didn't align with that. Anyways, then also they talk about Broomhild. I think they do a lot of great things in terms of the physics and the kinesiology of her attack between the original and the later ones. I'll talk about that as we get deeper into it. But he's going through the storyboard and you see Gilgamesh waking up. I definitely was way wrong on that. I thought it was Dracula. I didn't recognize that it was Gilgamesh. I just thought maybe, okay, somebody else is waking up in anticipation of this, but it was Gilgamesh sort of making his decision to... This was a big decision point to do this. And so why he makes that decision to do it is going to be huge. We've speculated about Morgaine and the Crow, but we're going to want to know more about what led Gilgamesh to make this massive decision. And I'm sure that's going to be a big piece of the initial story. All right, so then he destroys it. And you can see in 125 and 126 there, Broomhild's attack. It improves tremendously in terms of the realism of her form and her attack. You'll see it as we go forward and deeper into this video, but absolutely important how they made that change. So also they had some of these sort of talismans and little pieces that Broomhild would pull from someone, or Gilgamesh would pull out of his pocket, or this would go flying off of Ra. This was like the scarab that would go flying off of Ra, possibly when Broomhild attacked him. They didn't go that route. And then he talked about how they worked with cameras to make the Broomhild Ra final little, face-off look imposing the way it did, and that. So he talks about that as well, and what they were going for. But here I'm really trying to focus on, for you, what does this mean? Can we glean anything ahead of time from the game? Because otherwise you can watch this. It's fun, it's exciting to watch and learn behind the scenes, but your OG is looking for, how can this give you a step ahead? What can we learn from this? So we will continue to move forward. Okay, so he's talking about the proposal that Narwhal sent to them to want to work with them. They liked what Narwhal was doing and, of course, what they have done in the past, so they started to work with them. He's just talking about that process, and then because pretty much this whole video is based off of the product that Narwhal gave them, showing the behind-the-scenes creation of it. So they're showing mood boards and what they were going for that initial cinematic view that Ra's in, and then also what that reliquary room or what that secret room looked like or wanted to look like. They go over the project process, giving you the 3 phases: pre-production, production, and post-production, and some of the steps and maps, so you could kind of see like full length, like, okay, how long did this take? And we're looking at almost 20 weeks here. So not a short thing. You can't rush this. This is, this kind of level of excellence takes a lot of time, attention to detail, and then start from a good base, a good solid strategy. So we see all the steps and pieces that go into it, and all the different focus points they had to look through: facial expressions, the props and the armor, making sure it was good, the effects, the sound effects, all the different pieces that had to kind of mesh and come together and integrate. This is what I think is truly what's most amazing about what they created, was making all of those pieces flow so nicely is not easy. And it seems easy when you watch this because they have made it that way, but it is not. And so it makes what they've done just that much more impressive, and it shows that what they're looking to do in the future is only going to build on this. So really, really cool. Simon goes in and talks, like I said, more about mood boards and what they gave to Norwal and how they worked with it. You see sort of this these different ideas, and they were trying to get on the point with their looks and their feel for the video and how it landed. Then he goes into some other pieces here, like this is like the next round of pre-production, and then storyboarding and building the animatics for it. Like I said, they show all through the process, and Simon shares, sort of what the first most basic look. And there's Ra using his ultimate. You see those that 5-6 directions of light or divinity go out from him, very similar to Gilgamesh that they wanted to do. You see Ra here with wings. They actually take those wings off of him. Simon will talk about that in a later point in the video. But here at this point, we're looking for, okay, what can we glean that they haven't told us that would give us some sort of idea of things to look for or how to excel in the game. So that's what we're looking for, as well as enjoying, understanding. Simon talks here about AI and the tools they used to help them in their early exploration phase with pacing. AI would help them with their pacing, and then all of their team members would do the work off of that. So really awesome tie-in to use of AI as a tool, and speeding up this production process, which we still saw takes takes lots of time. So anything you can do to cut time from other elements of your process is extremely important. Of course, we will talk about lean Six Sigma in a future video, and how being lean can drive these timelines down. So we won't get too far off topic. That will come out in a future video. But you can see here they were really going over the fine-tuned details of the eyes, the mouth, the expressions. There isn't a shortage of research you can see here. They're really doing their mood boards. They're really getting their base solid before they start to jump and shoot for high targets, and that is really important. They have a solid base in their processes. It sets them up for success every time, so they're not so far off the mark when they land. Again, he's talking about different views, different feels, different things that they took into account. He talks here about Ra's wings and how they took them out last second because the silhouette in the cinematic didn't work right. What I'd love to offer here, I think late changes to the game like this leave awesome opportunities for secret abilities or Easter eggs. Like, these are things that can only be known if you're staying close to the game. So maybe like the wings of Ra could be something you bring back by doing a special achievement or whatever. Just an idea I thought would be cool. So he's talking about that, and then he's talking about, let's see, Gilgamesh, and all the work it took to get Gilgamesh from the beginning to the end, and how he just wasn't quite sure he was going to look right. But wow, what it came out to look like was awesome. So talks about, as we move forward here, he talks about, FX and lighting and that post-production work. If you notice, this is look from beginning to end much different, with that lighting, that FX. Then talks about sculpting Broomhild's mouth and her eyes to be more of a sexy warrior and not just a warrior. So like sort of just these really fine-tuning pieces and making sure that every little detail that can align and can support the narrative and the cinematic you're seeing does. It doesn't take away from it, and in fact it supports it. So this is the level of detail that Fateless is looking at. They don't want anything to be phoned in or just, yeah, that's good enough. They are really looking for, where can we add a little more value? Where can we add a little more value? So great sign for a game where they're gonna take that same philosophy forward. Simon talks here about Gilgamesh and his original look. So he shaved. This was Gilgamesh as a teenager, maybe, I don't know. But this was just them building out the base form for him, and then adding hair and all the things afterwards. So just shows how they put almost a placeholder in, and then work from that, iterate and improve and work from that. And of course, the final 3D rendering is what you recognize from the cinematic. Talks about the Norse environment and how to make the reliquary room feel ancient and timeless in a sense. And of course, you can see there's a melding and a blending of different cultures. I mean, you have Japanese, you have Greek, you have Roman, you have, different things. So we're not going for accuracy on if you were an architectural historian, but we are looking for ancient looking, feeling environments. And so he talks about that. And then we can jump ahead. So we're in the reliquary room, and he's talking about what that looks like. Of course, you can see he showed those 4 symbols again. And looking at that reliquary room, there was we may touch on it later, but there is an interesting piece that there are 4 bowls on the floor around on that platform that Gilgamesh is on when he smashes the ether chalice, and we'll show you here. I think this is the version that shows it better. So here's Ra in a Nordic setting. You see those lines coming out from him. He uses his ultimate. This is a much older or original version of the cinematic. They changed Ra so he didn't look back quite so much. Made it a more subtle movement. I really like these stairs leading up to this. Very cool, kind of like Aladdin-esque in the Cave of Wonders. But they changed that on the way in. So if you notice, he's looking into the ether pool. I guess that wasn't the best one, but there is a version that shows 4. Here it is. There's 4 bowls on the ground that have been added. And it would look that perhaps maybe they align with the 4 symbols we see on the wall. And as we were looking at I want to stop right there. So if you notice how this attack from Broomhild, right, she gets angry, she's sad, she's angry, she goes for the attack right as he breaks the ether chalice, allowing her to actually do damage and not just be swatted away. But he notices the glint. I'm glad they did away with that. But watch how that is not a natural way to attack right there. All of your energy and momentum is heading up to the upper left of the screen because that's the way your body is reacted. Now, she is going to roll over her energies, but in the air, that's actually a very difficult thing to generate force while doing. So if you see her body frame in this one, they've improved the kinesiology of how her body should move. So we'll look at that compared to the final version. And even here, look at how unnatural that look was when she goes and presses the spear. That right there is not a natural look. It's not a good follow through and finish. It looks very like most bottom half of her body is not engaged in the action. This is all being done just by her shoulder. So we'll show you how and she sort of follows through the spear. Also, a little real. That's a little realistic, but it doesn't look right, and you can tell. And so I think they really worked on the kinesiology and the physics of how she moved, and we'll see it in the final trailer just how much better that looks. So and then we talk about Mark Berry doing the mocap work of actually acting out some of the moves that the characters are doing, which is so cool. I would love to volunteer myself for the next mocap opportunity. I have 3 dogs, I have a beard, and I'm trained in martial arts. So let's do this, huh? I think I might give up being a content creator just to be a mocap actor, because that looks way, way more fun. So Mike Berry, I threw it out there. If you need a mocap actor, we'll go out in the yard, we'll wrestle around with the dogs, and you can have Cerberus and Hades and all kinds of. I'll do whatever you need me to do. I know it seems fun, so maybe Mike's not going to want to give it up, but the offer is out there. So really neat stuff as he's working through the kinesiology and the movements of some of these characters and what looks natural and what makes sense. And this is the level of detail they went into. Looks like a lot of fun. Here's Broomhild. He talks about, the more cleaned up version as we're getting closer and closer to the final cinematic, and what that looked like, and how they worked with the cameras here, as I mentioned, to make her seem so much smaller, make Raw seem so imposing. He's talking about camera angles and all the work they had to do with that. Then we get into final animation, some more mocap captures. Like I said, I am volunteering. I know you probably have a whole list of volunteers, but I am volunteering too because it looks fun. So here we're going to show Broomhild doing 2 very different sort of attacks. And you see the first one doesn't go in to Raw, like it doesn't penetrate, and then the one we do see does. But they've also changed her kinesiology a lot in terms of how her whole body gets into, her legs rotate and her whole body gets into the strike. Just a minor detail, but shows you how much they are paying attention and how much work. So whenever, I hear or see somebody jump on Discord or whatever, or comments in the video and say, oh, when is this coming out? When is this coming out? Well, here is why it takes some time. Here's why it doesn't just happen tomorrow. But it's cool to see, all of the work that goes behind this into making a game that we're just going to be totally about. So so this is the final version that you're seeing here. One of the things too that they took out was when Raw fights Broomhild, he picks up 2 weapons and these 2 dudes go flying out of the screen. It does make him look bigger and more opposing to have those 2 weapons and with his arms out at the side. But I think what they did works as well. So obviously you see Raw just not really bothered by or paying attention, so him noticing and having but you see those 4 bowls of blue around it. Perhaps those 4 bowls tied to the 4 symbols on the wall. And I say that because, and I'm going to pause it, in one of the other screens in the game that we saw during, I think it was the screen where you could almost pull souls for your, I don't know if that's the right naming, but it looked like the soul pulling screen for Awakening a character. There was a symbol in there, like an amber symbol, and it had the Asgard symbol on it. Okay, perhaps those are what we collect, and if you get 4 of them, you put them in the 4 bowls in this room, and you're able to access divinity or the divinity bowl. I'm not sure, but just want to throw in there that the 4 symbols on the wall may very well be connected to the 4 bowls that you see in this room. Just a prediction as we've been working to figure out this. We'll get to it here in a second. This room right here. So you see the 4 symbols on the wall, and you have 4 bowls of blue ether around the floor here. So perhaps these 4 link to these 4, and that gives you the access to the ether that allows you to have the ultimates, because it looks like this blue ether is the same that you get when you've built up your divinity enough and you have your ultimate ready to use. So maybe mortals would never have ultimates until you get into this space and you do what you need to do, and then you unlock that divinity for your characters. We'll see. Fun to guess and to look at the small details. All right, so this is the wrap up of the trailer, and you see she's angry. There's 4 bowls plus that one. I want to pause. I want to pause right there. So I had called this out as possibly, Gilgamesh, and this red was love, right? But Simon explains that this is he had crushed up this stone and put it in there, and then the corrupted divinity had spread through, and this was the start of him, sort of his power, that corrupted divinity converting or going to him. So he then has the strength to to destroy the chalice and unleash divinity for those that are more than just gods, I was very wrong here. I thought that might have been like Dracula or somebody waking up, but it is not. It is Gilgamesh just sort of like stopping and making a decision around that massive choice he's about to do, and then doing it. So this was the video. Really good stuff. If you want to see it, like I said, I'm going to drop it in the links below. But very cool, a lot of behind the scenes stuff, and we have pulled out the pieces that we think are important to your gaming experience. So if you like what you've seen, and you want to watch more, like the video, subscribe, and set your notifications so that every day when we're putting out a new video, you get notified. All right. So wrapping it up here, what a great video showing again how Fateless is pulling back the curtain and saying, watch how we're building this. We aren't ashamed of having something start in a very simple state and iterate and improve until it is at a level where you would expect it to be. I love the philosophy. I think that it works great. I employ the same philosophy in my business ventures. So that's all for today, folks. I want to thank you for stopping by, and remember, play smarter.